As you all know, I often talk to founders and business leaders who spend months building incredible products. But it's easy to forget how that one overlooked login or unsecured Wi-Fi connection can bring everything crashing down. That's where Nord Layer comes in. It's a business security platform built for the modern hybrid team. No hardware, no complicated rollout, just a simple toggle-ready solution that lets you secure your entire network in minutes. And it does this by combining VPN, access control and threat protection so your people can connect safely from any device and any network and anywhere. So whether you're 5 people or 500, you can scale it within a few clicks and sleep better knowing that your data's protected by the same team behind NordVPN. So if you've been putting off network security because it feels too technical or too expensive, don't wait any longer. Please visit nordlayer.com/techtalksdaily and use the coupon code TechDaily-28 for 28% off your plan. But now, on with today's show. Why is it that some people, and indeed organisations, seem to be thriving at the intersection of finance, technology and leadership, while others struggle to keep pace with the speed of change and technological change, and possibly guilty of saying, but we've always done it this way, and clinging to that way? And in saying that out loud, I've probably answered my own question there. But this question also sits quietly behind today's conversation, because my guest has lived through the transition in a very real way. And my guest is Darren Heffernan. He's the CEO of a company called Trintech. But he also leads a finance technology story that continues to evolve at an incredible pace. And yet we can talk all day around AI, automation, continuous finance and smart workflows. But one of the things I want to hone in on today is none of this matters unless you understand what happens in the real world, where teams still deal with expectations, reconciliation backlogs, rising expectations for accuracy and speed. And my guest has spent years inside those processes, and that gives him a unique perspective, a depth that you don't always hear in these kind of discussions. So as finance leaders everywhere are starting to ask the same questions, and questions like, how do we reduce the heavy manual effort without losing trust? How do we introduce smarter tools without creating a black box? How do we keep people at the centre of the workflow while letting technology take on the pressure and repetition? These are the questions I'm hearing all the time. Do any of those resonate with you? And if they do, my guest today, he's going to bring a calm clarity to everything, because he's going to talk openly about the work going on behind the scenes, the shift towards embedded AI instead of bolt-ons, and most importantly, the human judgment that sits at the heart of every financial close. And he also will share how he sees the next stage developing as AI inevitably becomes part of the daily rhythm of finance, rather than just a side project or experiment stuck in pilot phase. So as you listen today, I want you to think about your own finance processes. Where does the friction still currently sit? And what might change if your team could focus on value instead of volume? And with all that in mind, what would progress look like inside your organisation? But hold that thought for one moment, because it's now time to officially introduce you to Darren now. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you just tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I'm Darren Heffernan. I'm the CEO of Trintech, and we are a software company, Neil, in the office of the CFO is what we sell into. And we help people automate their financial close processes and high volume reconciliations through technology, and a lot of emphasis on workflow and AI.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you join me on the show today. And one of the things I always try and do before we talk about the present day and the future and all the exciting stuff is find out more about your origin story. And when I was doing a little research on you, I was reading about from finance leader to tech visionary. You began your career in finance accounting, not technology. And yet today, here you are leading a global SaaS company that's redefining how finance operates. So tell me about that origin story, and what was your personal, I don't know, tech awakening when you realized technology wasn't just another enabler, but the engine driving modern finance?
Yeah, I suppose I'm really like most people who end up in CEO roles had their grounding in some aspect of one or other profession, right? So mine ended up being finance and accounting, and I kind of when I was in school, Neil, one of my favorite subjects out there was accounting. So I kind of knew from a pretty early age, like in my mid-teens, how geeky is this, that I kind of accounting was going to be in my future, and being an accountant was what I kind of wanted to be. If I couldn't make it as a professional footballer, that was my plan, right? So, um, so I went and I studied ACCA, Chartered Certified Accountant, and I worked in multiple different industries. Like I was in public practice, I was in large companies, and then I ended up joining GE Capital. And that was probably my first introduction to technology, because we were implementing a new ERP system. And as I seen all the intricacies that were going on through that and the benefits that the technology was actually going to give us, it struck a chord with me. It really excited me. So on my next move, I actually ended up moving to Trintech. And God, that's been some 24 years ago at this stage. So I moved to technology, and I was probably a bit green when I moved into the tech space. But I quickly realized that, wow, the art of the possible is really awake and alive in what we can go through here. And it was probably the greatest thing that I've done. And joining the company has been just a fantastic journey for me.
And as you said, you've been with Trintech since 2001, took the helm as CEO in 2023. But anything else that inspired that journey? And I'm curious, were there any lessons from your early finance career that still shape your leadership today?
Yeah, well, the funny thing is, when I was with GE, one of my key roles was actually doing manual reconciliations, believe it or not, like ticking and tying and Excel spreadsheets and paper and all that. So it's ironic that today I lead one of the leading SaaS companies in the world that helps companies resolve that, which is still a massive issue. But like for me on my journey with Trintech, like I've done probably every role you can think of, Neil. In my journey to being the CEO. And that's what's been probably enabled me to be able to do a decent job as CEO, because I understand it from all aspects of the business. Like I've been CFO, I've been COO, I've been president of the company. I've run different parts of the organization, smaller parts of the organization, as we've continued to grow throughout the years. So it's just as been the lessons that I've learned from every aspect of it, not just in finance, has enabled me to step into the shoes where I am today, and ultimately, I suppose, be the one that makes the decisions. Right? That's what your job is as a CEO. So it's a lot different than any of the others that I've had, I can tell you.
And of course, Trintech does have a solid reputation as a leading provider of AI financial close solutions. And for listeners who might not be too familiar with Trintech, maybe hearing about you for the first time, can you just offer a quick overview of who you are, what you do, and how Trintech is helping organizations simplify and try and transform their systems there? Because it's incredibly cool what you're doing here with technology. And there'll be many people listening that are still maybe stuck in the old way of doing things when technology is speeding things up so much now, isn't it?
Of course, yeah, happy to share. But like we automate the financial close process, including high volume reconciliations for both large and small companies. So we have companies that are in the multi-billion and half the Fortune 100, and then we've got other companies that are in the 50 million range. So it literally is a workflow tool when you're thinking about closing your books and all the thousands of things that have to be done during that process. We're in the middle. So from the time you close your subledgers in an accounting environment or in your ERP, right through to when you're delivering your P&L account, your balance sheet to whatever stakeholders. It could be to the public markets, it could be to your bank, it could be to your shareholders. Trintech is able to give you peace of mind that everything that should have been done to ensure that the end result is accurate and transparent, Trintech has got your back covered in that journey. So like our mantra is really give time back, and that's what we're about trying to do all through that process. And we've always been involved in machine learning and RPA, and now a real cornerstone of how we're delivering that value to our clients is through AI. I'm sure you probably asked me a few things on that. Like AI is going to be the cornerstone of how we deliver return on investment and value creation for people that use the Trintech technology. We're a global company. We've got a lot of employees in a lot of different parts of the globe, including all over Europe, the US, Middle East, APAC region. So, and roughly about 3,500 clients kind of use our software. So that gives you literally a bit of a overview, hopefully, Neil, of what we're about and what we do.
And one of the things that stands out to me is you're moving people from manual spreadsheet heavy work to automation, including machine learning and risk-aware workflow. So how do you help your clients trust technology while pushing innovation forward? Because it is an industry known for being risk-averse, being cautious, sticking to the old way of doing things. But you're really pushing forward on this, aren't you?
We are, because, well, the first part is we really do understand the market, right? Like even given my background and being in finance for 30 plus years, and the company Trintech itself has been doing this for almost 30 years as well. So we have got a lot of data and a lot of experience and a lot of clients of how to close their books and how to reconcile like high volume transactions. And you're spot on. Like, we are very conscious of the fact that even in the world we live in today, it is all about compliance for our clients. It is all about making sure it's done in a secure and transparent environment. It's all about making sure the auditability is there in this whole ecosystem of what you're going through. So like for us, the AI financial close is where we've worked in it for, I would say over a decade, Neil, because we've been involved in machine learning. We've been involved in RPA, which is robotic process automation. So like the advancement of AI is actually just going to make things done quicker than they ever were before. And because we have the history of knowing how to do it and knowing what our clients are looking for, we think it gives us a great edge to making sure that people can trust what we're actually doing.
And when I was also researching you, another thing that stood out is you often talk about keeping people at the heart of transformation. And it's so reassuring and refreshing to hear that right now. So how do you make sure automation amplifies that human expertise instead of replacing it, especially in a field as precision driven as accounting and finance?
Yeah, absolutely. Like the one thing I kind of preach to our employee base and our partners is that, like, I truly believe that with the advent of AI, the people who know AI are actually going to be the ones taking the jobs. I don't believe, especially in our world, that AI itself is going to take it. And it's for what you pointed out. Like we are a very process-driven industry. The transparency, the compliance, the security, all of the things are paramount, and making sure you're able to audit everything that is done out there. Like there's a lot of new companies that I would advise your listeners just to be very aware of, that they will claim they're doing everything in an AI world. But like you really should, be looking at the vendors like ourselves who've got a history of knowing how to do this and making sure that we've got your backs covered, and that what you're trying to do is ultimately deliver accurate, timely results. And companies like Trintech will actually enable you to be able to do it faster. And because that's the way we've always done it. Now it's going to be done differently because there's going to be an interaction of a human and an agent collaboration. But we all know in the finance world, like ultimately, individuals and humans have to make the final decision in our world. It doesn't work any other way. It's different than some other industries where AI can do like 100% of the tasks, or a robot can, you can go into a store and a robot can kind of check you out in that store. It's not like that in our world, just because of the requirements that are actually needed to for people to trust you, right? And people to trust that the results are accurate. Like even somebody asked me this the other day, and I said, it's not going to be sufficient for you to turn to a client or a prospect and say, don't worry about how that's done. Just trust me. I can promise you it's all done correctly. So that's a big mantra for us. And I don't believe AI will replace accountants. It'll amplify their expertise. It'll remove a lot of the menial tasks. It will surface issues faster and thus empower the finance team. And, I truly believe it's going to elevate what the finance teams are actually done and enable them to operate in a more value-added capacity than just doing all the things that are mundane, boring, repetitive that have been there for a very long time. And Trintech has always been focused on that, but I think this will just even amplify it even more.
Yeah, and I'd echo everything you said there, especially around the importance of taking a moment to have that AI reality check when choosing a solution, because so many companies out there saying they're doing AI, far fewer actually are. So to bring to life what you're doing here, what's the one real, or maybe provide one real example of AI inside Trintech solutions that's making it smarter, faster, or more confident financial decisions? Because that's the ROI, that's the solving of the real problems that people are looking for, right?
Yeah, one key thing for the way we are looking at AI is we are embedding it inside our financial applications as opposed to bolting it on. And that's a big difference of what we're doing. And let me give you some just tangible examples of what I mean by that. So we absolutely reconcile high volume of transactions every day for our clients. And I'm talking about you could be in the multi-millions, and in some cases, you're actually in the billions of transactions that are being reconciled over periods of time. So obviously, auto reconciliation and having algorithms and rules based around that is very, very important. But like when you have exceptions to that, you need to be able to come up with a way to resolve them pretty quickly. And for especially larger organizations, like you could be at 99.5% reconciliation rate, but the amount of that 0.5% is still gigantic as regards to the volume of transactions. So one thing that we're doing inside our solution is actually our AI functionality is looking at the exceptions. It's identifying why have they not matched. It's figuring out why they have not matched. It's then writing a rule to make sure that if they encounter this going forward, that it will match. They're then scanning the rest of the exceptions that didn't reconcile, see if they fit into the same, if you like, bucket or genre. And then they're going to run them for all of the unmatched items. They're going to create a rule. And here's where the critical part comes, Neil. They're going to ultimately reach back out to the human being to make sure that they check it, they look at it, and then they ultimately give permission and authorize that this rule should be incorporated into their set of rules. And then going forward, that would be another subset of exceptions that will not have to be researched or any work done on, because they will automatically reconcile going forward. So that's one example I will give you of a tangible AI inside our solution. In the finance community, we're encountering a real shortage of accountants coming into our profession, right? And there's an incredible amount of open positions in the industry that cannot be filled. There's a shortage of people entering the industry through college than ever before. So for us, we've looked at our LLM, our large language model that we've embedded inside our solutions, and really realize that if we're bringing on new talent, if a customer is bringing on new talent, how about they just interact with our LLM to teach them how to use the solution? Like things like, can you bring me to the journal entry template? Can you please populate the journal entry template? Can you go look at the chart of accounts that we're using here and tell me what it is for, I don't know, salaries, or tell me what it is for, another expense like postage or whatever. List out the debits and credits and please post, show me what it looks like, and please post that to your ERP system. So those are the things that we have already worked on. But like my vision and the vision of my team and colleagues, Neil, is that everything that's manually done in the workflow process today to close your books inside of our system can ultimately be delivered by AI. But the key difference that I will always say is that It will be done in a secure environment. It will be done with the full authorization, security, transparency, and auditability of what a compliance orientated finance professional needs when they ultimately need to sign off.
And 3 years have now passed since ChatGPT first arrived, and as the tech continues to mature and that hype that has surrounded AI and generative AI begins to fade as well, AI is becoming more embedded in everything from reconciliation and controls. How do you ensure transparency and explainability, especially for auditors and regulators who really need that clear, traceable logic rather than black box AI that they don't know what's going on in there?
Like, it's honestly, Neil, all down to making sure that you capture the audit trail of every change that you're making and everything that has been done. It is like, I'm back to my first job out of school when I was in a public practice doing audits on companies. And, the one thing you were always taught is make sure you can track the audit trail of everything that's been done. And it's not just a matter of taking somebody's word for it. And that's exactly how we are designing our AI strategy inside our products, right? So people will always have peace of mind of, okay, I need to research that. I need to really understand. I need to go deeper there and see what are the rules, what transaction A and transaction B were reconciled, what journal entry was posted, what compliance rule did you adhere to, what closed task was done at 2 o'clock in the morning in some country that I'm not awake looking at. So that's the key part of this. And that's, again, I'll always kind of highlight, be wary of the kind of new kids on the block out there. They'll claim this is all easy to do and don't worry about it. It'll be a lot quicker. They're not going to have the experience of knowing what has to happen in our world for generations, and will be there for generations to come, because compliance is such a complex part of what we do.
And Trintech's mantra is make time count. So what does that mean to you personally as a leader of the company, and also for your customers, your people, and your business as a whole?
Yeah, it's one of our key values. It's embedded in the DNA of kind of every Trintecher out there, and we extend that to our customers, our prospects, our partners, that it's a massive part of the way we look at things, because make time count is not only for your professional life, but it's also for your personal life. So when I think back to, working in this environment, it was weekends, it was late nights, it was holidays. You were always on, right? As a person, and you just don't have the staff available today, or the younger generation today, Neil, won't do it. They're quite right. I was kind of foolish and did it, and my generation did, but the young people today won't. So really what we're trying to empower organizations is to think just a little bit differently, in that using technology like Trintech is going to give you back time, which is why make time count. You will never get back, another day. Like today's day will pass and you'll never get it back. So you got to make the most of it.
You really do. And from a more personal level here, you've led through so many different waves of technological change in your career. And I'm curious, how has your leadership style evolved to keep pace with the speed of technological change and indeed innovation? Have you noticed any big changes within your own leadership?
Oh, yeah, I definitely have. Yeah. And my wife would tell you she's definitely noticed big changes as well. But some of it comes from just experience and maturity, that you've seen things that you've experienced things that you go, okay, I understand this. Now I've got this inbuilt kind of DNA capture in my head about decisions that you've made in the past. So there's definitely a lot of that. And then the other thing I would say, Neil, is that when you change role, when you become the CEO of a company, you're really no longer the doer in an organization. You're more the listener. You're listening to opinions, you're listening to views, you're listening to so many different stakeholders, so you can figure out kind of what decision should ultimately be made. You surround yourself with definitely the best team you could possibly hire, as you should do at every level. But when you're CEO, it makes such a difference. And I've definitely found that when I think back to functions and roles in the past, I was more the doer. and more execution. When you're a CFO, you're accountable for the numbers and decisions that have to be executed on, as opposed to, I guess, my maturity level now is up a little bit where I gotta think differently. So I'd say I'm a lot more calmer now, Neil, than I ever was in the past. Would also be something I would add.
And you have enjoyed a hugely successful career, and I often think that all of us are standing on the shoulders of those people that helped us get where we are. They invest time and see something in us, maybe even mentor us there. So are there any key mentors or influencers that have helped guide your leadership journey? Maybe we would give a shout out to today.
Yeah, it probably would be unfair to call out people individually, because there's so many of them that have influenced me over the course of not only my career, but even, sports mentors I had over the years, family members who have played a big role and helped me in so many different aspects. Like, what I like to think I've done is really taken the best parts of a lot of those people and put them into my kind of personality and mix that up and with what I'm about and hopefully come out with the best version of myself. Like I've had a very kind of humble upbringing, so I fully believe in that. It's one of our values inside Trintech that humility is a big thing that I operate on. Respect is a massive thing that I operate on. So, those are just key influences or DNA traits that I think that when you're brought up as a kid, you kind of keep through your life. And I think I'm being true to myself in a lot of things that I've kind of experienced and how I execute on a daily basis. So yeah, a lot of great people that have helped me get where I am.
Love it. And finally, we are at that magical time of the year where we're starting to think about the opportunities for another year, 2026. So what excites you most about maybe AI's potential to further transform finance? And are there any unknowns or risks that maybe keep you up at night that you'd like to share?
Yeah, like for us, when I think about it, like the AI financial close is really where I think our next frontier is, right? And I don't think it keeps me up at night. Very little keeps me up, but that's what I think about as we're about chasing AI, mastering it, like combination of the human and the agent collaboration. And like for us, it just truly means agentic, autonomous, explainable systems that don't just detect issues, they take action. They learn from every close. They improve the control and accuracy over time while constantly keeping the human accountant's expertise at the forefront. Like this is where Trintech is investing, like being trusted, embedded AI, purpose built for the office of the CFO. And we have to stay responsible and ensure governance, transparency, security, and human oversight are at the forefront of it. And you said it earlier, but I 100% agree with you. Like finance runs on trust, and our goal is to make sure that AI strengthens that trust, not challenges it. It embraces it and makes it a better experience for everybody going forward. So that's what keeps me up at night, and that's what our whole team are kind of developing from a company perspective and from a organic perspective. So.
Love it. And finally, for everyone listening, they want to continue this conversation we started today, maybe talk to your team or just keep up to speed with some of the developments coming outside of Trintech. Where would you like to point everyone?
Sure. Well, www.trintech.com is our website. And by all means, reach out to me on LinkedIn. You'll find me pretty easily on LinkedIn as the CEO of Trintech. And I'd love to hear from you and happy to introduce you to, probably smarter people than me that can help you on this journey if you want us to go on it with you.
Well, again, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate the way you pulled back the curtain on what genuine AI in finance actually looks like. And I think your point about taking an AI reality check, well, that will stay with me because it really cuts through the noise and reminds everyone listening that trust, transparency and explainability, these things matter as much, if not more so, than automation itself. Yeah, and also loved hearing more about how you keep people at the center of every transformation story, because even as the industry moves further towards continuous connected finance, it's people at the heart of everything. So thanks again for sharing your time, your experiences and your invaluable insights and perspective. Thank you.
Neil, it was great talking to you. Thank you so much for your time.
One of the many things that stayed with me from our conversation today was how Darren talks about complexity. He brings everything back to trust, to clarity, to the human role inside the process, all of which feels refreshing in a moment where tools can overshadow the people that they're meant to be helping. And I think his take on embedded AI exception handling and the importance of transparency, all these things give everyone listening a grounded view of where finance tech is heading. I know listening to him, it did for me. And I also appreciate the way he framed collaboration between humans and agents as something practical rather than abstract. And most of all, there was no hype in the conversation today in any of his reasoning. He gave a focus on accuracy, explainability, and the controls that finance teams rely on day in, day out. And it reminds you that this work is less about chasing the new idea and more about strengthening the systems that keep companies running. And as always, these conversations are here to try and give you a clearer view of what is real, what is possible, and what deserves your attention as we all collectively move into another inevitable year of rapid change in 2026. But before we even think about that, what stood out to you from Darren's perspective today, and how do you see AI reshaping the financial close inside your organisation? Please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. Remember, techtalksnetwork.com. 3,500 and growing interviews there for your consumption. And also send me a DM on LinkedIn, X or Instagram @Neil C. Hughes. Nice and easy to find. But I've taken up far too much of your time for today. So I will bid you a fond farewell and speak with you all again tomorrow. Bye for now.